Hello, folks. It's Richard Moore, and welcome to the Richard Moore Show. I think should have a good one today. I'm going to, as always, keep it brief. And I think that, and I know people say, well, you always say that, and I was raised in a Baptist church, and I did convert. And the preacher always would say, and in closing, and that usually meant another 45 minutes. But I hopefully I won't keep you that long. But I do feel that I've got, as always, an important message. I've just got tons of notes here. I'm multitasking, and actually I'm right in the middle of drafting. I'm working on two different pieces of litigation, and it's difficult, even for attorneys, I'm sure, or at least they charge you as if it's difficult. And I'm not an attorney, so I make no allegations that I have some type of legal training. But I can read, and I have read the Constitution, and many people talk about the Constitution and the amendments to the Constitution, but never read it. That's kind of the same way with the Bible, the Holy Bible. I've read it through from cover to cover, half a dozen or more times. So that's and for those that are looking for the best book to read, is it addresses and pertains to stalking and the elements of the cult we know as community-oriented policing. One of the dilemmas with community-oriented policing is that it's like peeling an onion. The way these operations are set up through federal funding, private funding, federal agencies, state agencies, elected officials, private citizens, etc., etc. Makes it difficult to place your finger on who is responsible. Kind of like La Cosa Nostra, the Italian mob, and the way the mafia is designed. It's very difficult to get to the head of the snake. Matter of fact, it's literally impossible to do that unless you're able to get the majority of the body and get everybody to agree on the same thing. This is why they created the RICO Act. Before the RICO Act, it was impossible. We look at Al Capone. He, being in his sophisticated network of a gangster, they managed to get him for tax evasion. But now with the RICO Act, we have that. And so how does the RICO Act, how is it applicable to these federal agencies and so forth? Well, it isn't. It's only applicable to what I just mentioned. And they know this. So they're working outside of that parameter. They believe that they're skirting in the gray areas, splitting hairs, and so forth. What they're doing is they're circumventing civil and constitutional liberties for millions of Americans. They're in fact suffering. It's taken me quite some time. I would venture to say that most victims never arrive at this time to be able to be proactive and challenge their tormentors. Many that play an integral part in crimes against myself and my family, and this is physical assaults to abuse of power, personal property crime, breaking and entering, theft. It goes on and on and on. I've always known that there's an individual behind the scenes that is orchestrating the targeting. We refer to that as a handler. And don't get that confused, folks. So that you have your frontline crash dummies, and then they're directed by someone. They're working in groups. So that group leader would be a CBA, maybe community-based agent. But overall, they're answering to one person that is overseeing, making sure that, so when you, the victim, travel, that person has to make sure that that information is parlayed to the next organization. This is a systemic, corrupt operation. Is it a culture of corruption? Absolutely. If it involves law enforcement, then it's exactly what it is. I mean, that should go without saying. So I'm going to give you just a couple real quick, and then I'm going to highlight the importance of what I'm saying. I posted some footage yesterday while I was working out in my yard, and inevitably, of course, you have the morons. That's just traffic. That's an old, tired, and worn out gaslighting statement rolling out of the mouths of fools. I don't post anything and claim for it to be something off of a hunch. Of course, the mere idea of community-oriented policing, and any person that participates in that are equally culpable. This is a cult at best. One needs to not dig very far to learn that if you know anything about Jesus Christ and the Creator God, you'll quickly learn that every element of this program absolutely and abjectly conflicts with Christianity and God's Word. Period. There's no, you can't be both. I'm taking a few excerpts of I'm going to give you some of the wording that these people use. Now, mind you, they're elements. How do I take these elements? Well, we have that one person that has deemed that they're going to be the one that destroys the victim. Now, the end game for American citizens that come under the guns of community-oriented policing. One, it never ends. Two, it's designed to annihilate the victim. That's to reduce them from something to nothing. In other words, to reduce something to nothing means there's nothing. If there's nothing sitting here, that means I'm dead. That's right. That is a fact. In 2017, and this was in the Southern District of Mississippi, ladies and gentlemen, launched its PSN. Now, what is PSN? It's Project Safe Neighborhoods. That is your whore in a new dress of Cointelpro. They launched its PSN task force to combat violent crime occurring in Jackson, Mississippi. Now, let me tell you who's involved with them. This is where the confusion comes in. The United States Attorney's Office, the ATF, DEA, FBI, U.S. Marshal Service, joined forces with Homeland Security. Now we're getting into the private sector. The Jackson Police Department, Hinds County District Attorney's Office, Mississippi State Crime Laboratory, state law enforcement, Jackson City Council members. It's a slippery slope, folks. Community leaders. So that's your chairperson of your local NAMBLA chapter, or your local satanic church, or Masonic temple. Business leaders, Walmart. Non-profits. What? Non-profits. You heard me. 5013C. And faith leaders to form Project is capital EJEC. CT. Project Eject. Now, I'm struggling with that right there. You've got all these people working together. Who's calling the shots? What parameters are they working within? Well, really, there are no parameters. I'm the preacher over here, and I ain't signing anything. I'm not a public servant, so I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Okay, that's what we want. That's teamwork. Now, get this. A holistic meaning everyone. Get this right. Will you hear these groups and these organizations, and all you hear the person saying, whether on YouTube or Facebook, gang stalker and this gang stalker and gang, that's all you hear back out of their mouth. It doesn't take long. About 2 or 3 of those I've done, because they're absolutely perps. That's the lingo. That is the word, the name that these people have given the victims. It's always a play on words. In other words, it's a sleight of hand. It's absolute. An absolute lie, underhanded, and they're operating in the dark. And people, many of them will call themselves godly people. Where do they do that at? Get this lingo this language is amazing. Multidisciplinary approach. America should have a problem with that. Multidisciplinary. What the hell does that mean? Our judicial system does not have a disciplinary system. You're either, if you're found guilty of a crime, then you're sentenced amount of time in most cases, and that's the price you pay for committing that crime. And it's supposed to be for those that actually committed a crime. There's not enough prisons on this planet. If they were all put in the United States and emptied out, and you helped people guilty of those crimes, and you start with law enforcement, they'd be filled up. The multidisciplinary approach. I like this approach. That's like, if you had a bath today, well, I did approach the bathroom. Well, that tells me that you didn't have a bath, but you got close to it. That's what they're trying to tell you. That's what they're saying. But we know that they do more than approach. They engage. They're all in. To combating violent crime. That sounds good. Every real victim of targeting I've ever met has never been convicted nor accused of violent crime. Legitimately. And what this fat lard ass driving around buzzing by your house all day, what they say doesn't count. God forbid. And see, the crime eject stands, now here we go. Now they're going to tell you what eject stands for. We know what we hear. You know what we hear when people make these slurs and make these statements like, you people. What do you mean by you people? What do you mean by eject? We're in the United States of America, and a person lives there and in this town or community, and now they're subject of Operation Eject. Now, does that make anyone feel like they're maybe talking about, we're just going to, what does it make them feel like? exactly, makes them feel exactly what it says, and they meant for it to. It stands for empower, Jackson, expel, crime together. Boy, they had to really think that up, didn't they? And they can change that acronym just like Tupelo. They have the POW program. It's the same deal. Perverts always lurking and following people. Wherever you go, they put little pet names on it, folks. But it's the same whore. Don't get it confused. I just want everybody to understand that. Don't start thinking, well, we don't. And I'm going to show you where their textbook too. Now it employs 4 platforms. We believe them. I believe that about like someone knocking on my door and saying, I'm with the IRS and I'm here to help you. Somehow I think they're lying. The 4 platforms is prevention. Oh my God. That's very subjective. Prosecution. And they do that outside of our judicial system. Reentry. I've been saying it, folks. Anyone being released from prison and you're wondering, they just keep going back. They learned their lesson. It's impossible. Learn the lesson, my ass. Would you release them and you make it look like you've put them in a good job and that, I got a good job over there. But everybody in the factory is screwing with them. They get forced out and then the convict gets blamed for having an attitude or poor community skills or whatever you want to put in there. And you get some dud with mental health that'll co-sign with it. And some rat that works with them to double down on that. Rehabilitation, reentry, and rehabilitation. I could really go on one there. Rehabilitation. So you're stalking, lying, backstabbing, betraying, destroying families, and you've got the audacity to talk about you're working with a program that helps rehabilitate people. Adolf Hitler, you can kiss my ass on that. I said, well, how long can you go without cussing? Not long. Not when you're talking about this. Rehabilitation and awareness. Okay. Well, that's subjective too. So as I report these crimes, I make people aware of them. And also, in real time, as you watch the trolls, these are the criminals, community-oriented, these are the people. These are the losers. These are the pathetic pieces of humanity. Boy, get in there and then gaslight. You're seeing things. There's no such thing as gang stalking. May not be, but there is such a thing as a bunch of pathetic perverts stalking. So we're going to start calling it perverts a stalking. Okay? Maybe you can understand that better. And so in addition to undertaking significant, yeah, that is significant, undertaking a free society to eject people, make people aware, and rehabilitate them because they're the wrong color. The wrong they said something you like or whatever the hell else you want to put in there. This is what they're hanging on, folks. And significant enforcement members of the task force conduct prevention activities at schools. Hello. Of course, these schools are getting federal grant money. And folks, if you're not going to the Department of Justice and look it up, it's actually the Department of Justice. I can always just roll those out when it's they have an office that you're able to gain the information on who is getting this grant money, and also you'll see a link there where you can file a complaint of misuse of federal funds. So how do you ascertain these things? Well, most school districts are getting these funds. This is how they do it, folks. They could give a shit about the kids. They're using the kids as shields, all right? Save the children. Yeah, save the children. We use them for shields. And then we'll get on this. We want to kill all pedophiles. And they don't really mean it, because if they did that, we wouldn't have anybody here stalking. But they put that on other people. Everything they say is backwards, folks. Remember that. So prevention activities at schools and nonprofits, and engage the community through regular town hall meetings. They used to be called Klan meetings. This coordinated and comprehensive approach helped reduce violent crime in the city of Jackson by 7%. Now, so who reports the crimes? Law enforcement. I guess it did reduced it by 7%. Okay, because all the crimes that were reported by these victims, that didn't go on there. That drove your numbers down. That's how you're driving your numbers down, because you're silencing the victims. When you see crime rates drop all over the nation, folks, it doesn't mean crimes dropping. That means victims that before the crimes were reported, those were bogus numbers. Now, how'd they change the numbers? It should be on. If you hear them say, anytime you hear them say crime's on the rise, they're politicking and they're positioning and jockeying for more money. They always are running back to the trough. Americans have a propensity to elect these fat hogs, and this is a metaphor, and it's real in most cases. Who can get us the most money out of the hog trough? As if, where are they getting this money from? Well, I'll tell you. Who owns America, and that's China. They own trillions and trillions and trillions of American debt. Our landlord is China. China gave us a virus. Walmart excels, breaks records. Do the math. But I'm going to tell you how we reduce it all the way down to the ridiculous and make it simple for each victim to understand, and how they can become proactive. It's not that your soapbox is that you beat that drum every day on how bad you feel. Now, those that like to whine that stuff, they hate that. Well, I just want to feel bad, and I want to talk about being vibrated. I'm using words I'm seeing, folks. They've been vibrating me for 2 days. And folks, you can imagine what kind of picture I draw every time I hear that. I'm like, that must be a plug-in, is all I can think. Sure ain't batteries be going on for 2 days. Batteries expensive. So this is a bullshit report from 2017. Project Safe Neighborhoods, my friend. You can see this that logo there, and I've got some, and they really love this. The U.S. Department of Justice, they love these stars. You might want to look at this big thick book. What's that say? Creating an effective stalking protocol. Okay, now this is, everything's not what it seems, folks. But will you read in here? Folks, this is the carte blanche of information right there. Now, for those morons that want to gaslight and say something, you can move on to something else. Project Safe Neighborhoods is a customized to account for local violent crime problems. Well, I'm not a violent criminal. Who cares? You will be by the time they get through with you. you see these mass shootings taking place everywhere. He was a lonely priest, that's right. But we always find out. We have to dig. We have to go to something like the Babylon Bee or something like that, where somebody may have managed to get outside of the matrix and say, well, this guy numerous reports of stalking. Like I said, why, you're just imagining things. They're full well, because they can't have egg on their face. We told you that this program was for violent people. Now, Mary Lou, see there? He killed everybody in the movie theater. We just didn't do our job good enough. And Mary Lou said, well, maybe you're right. A Jedi mind trick. And so goes the tale of the masses of morons. They want to help prevent violence from occurring in the first place. Sure, in a perfect world. But we don't live in a perfect world, and you'll never be able to do that. But you can create a program that on the slick, you can slide under the masses, because they're caught up and buying things on television or playing games on their phone or keeping up with the Kardashians. And all the while, in the good old US of A, they're taking prayer out of school. Teachers are teaching something that we've never heard of. Sure, we could spend months on this topic. It expresses and underscores that the fundamental goal of this work is to reduce violent crime in the places we call home. What about the son of a bitches that call it home as well? That are not violent offenders, but you have wrongfully and unlawfully labeled that person, and you call this evidence-based, proactive policing. So the layperson, I assume, is trained to analyze what is and is not evidence, or you can essentially tell them anything. If you're wearing a badge, it said, and under that, evidence maven, then it's got to be evidence. In other words, if it's on the internet, it's got to be true. It's that group of people that actually think like that. We think it's funny? No. If they see it on the internet, well, hell, it's true. Wow. Folks, you can't make it up. So, Project Safe Neighborhoods, folks. This is the whore they're running under. Okay? You could be doing anything. Putting arsenic in hamburgers and selling them for $1 a piece. And including all addictive agents where people will come and eat it, and eventually they kill them. And then you dare say anything about it. We give all this money to the underprivileged children. What about the children? Yeah, what about the children? They forget the arsenic. You're feeding children arsenic? Leave them alone. Blah, blah, blah. So you got this mob mentality. I have one right out here. Got it filmed, posted it. That'll be one of the subjects in federal court. So we got a mob of clowns over here at the Alpine, Mississippi Volunteer Fire Department. Having, who knows what they were doing over there. And so I film them, all of them out there. I don't see any smoke. It's not they've got facilities for anything over there. They got a couple of damned old fire trucks parked in there. Okay? Not water slides or anything like that. It's damn sure not a community center. But they're over there. Next thing I know, 2 Union County deputies show up. They all got who we're talking. I'm filming it. He walks over there. That woman, a woman not quite as big as the 500-pound Walmart manager, but she would be the 400-pound line hog over there. She walks to take charge and said, you were filming them, and there were their children, and you were touching your crotch. Something along those lines. These are listen, I went off like a Roman candle. I said, well, good. And I said, that man, I don't know if that's their dad or the boyfriend that's standing by her. When you get through, we'll get those. Because he had his arm run down to his elbow, digging in their clothes. And they're screaming. I want to make sure we get that. I want to take out charges on that. I had to see that. And he walked over there. And he come back. What she's decided, and I hollered over there. I said, you need to keep in mind, your heaviness, that making a false police report's a felony. I, by God, will bust hell wide open. I don't make sure that sticks. Well, she decided that she wouldn't press charges on that damn. I mean, she couldn't press charges anyway. They're willing to say anything. Can you imagine? This is the tempo. They set people up and they have no problems. And when I catch them in public places doing directed conversations and stuff, even if it's not a directed conversation, that could be your lucky day. Because you can believe one thing. I'm in this for the long haul. I've been taking names and notes. And I'm out here mowing my grass. And in real time, if you'll watch part 1 of the hay seeds in Alpine, Mississippi, a good deal into that video, you'll see where I come up and said, I've been coughing. I only cough when I get to this part of the yard. Did that last week. You can hear the sound of an ultrasonic weapon. So to prove that, I got my ultrasonic weapon and matched the sound. Then I took my meter and I was able to pinpoint where it was coming from. I've been doing this for a long time, folks. And if these clowns think that what they're doing is legal, they know it's not. That's why it's a secret. Well, we're not doing that. Okay, tell that to the judge. I bet I can get you there. And I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it relentlessly. One of the other whores in this deal, of course, is the infamous DARE program. And this is something that takes it down to more bite-sized pieces. All same. It's all part of the same whore. And the school, let's say this division, this is it for Lee County. It's comprised of 9 officers. Now, all this is grant money pays these people, okay? And houses all of our school resources officers, DARE, school programs, interns, job shadows, and other youth events, functions within the community. Can you imagine what that would be? This does include ride-alongs. In other words, the adult pervert will take their own children and other children and teach them how to become their own pillar perverts of the community. All the same whore. Then you have the MCTFT. Need Aretha in here to do that one. The multi-jurisdictional counter-drug task force training. It's a federally funded. That we say drugs now, folks. Drugs. We say drugs. That's all you need to know. I've said this before. I don't think I'm effectively driving that point home. I don't know if the murders that I have talked about here in North Mississippi, every single, or missing people, every single one of them, there's a common thread lie. Well, they was on drugs. Oh, that is the catchword with these narrow-minded simpletons. You just don't know. They on that dope. And you know what? That's all they need to hear until it comes knocking on their door. And often it does. Because I also know some families now that are in a pretty bad way because they're participating in this program and come to find out now they've got a problem and they're dealing with the same thing that they forced other people to deal with because you're dealing with the devil. You think that because you're shacked up with the devil and that you've sold your soul to the devil, that somehow the devil is going to treat you good? The devil only knows one way. One. Don't be surprised. You get what you lay with dogs, you get fleas. When you work for this program, you have sold out. Broad is the way to hell, and many will enter therein. And this is a federally funded, nationally responsive partnership between Department of Defense, National Guard Bureau. Did I catch a CBA in my yard for the Mississippi National Guard? I sure did. And boy, they just went ballistic. How'd you get his name? How do you put him on there? You're not supposed to be able to get your names. They use the fake tags and all that. Well, folks, they want it to appear that they're all knowing and all powerful and impenetrable force. This secret shadow force or something. That's bullshit. They're not. And when you dare, they'll come at you with the most everything they can. That's what they do with me all the time. I think it's funny because I'm gonna keep putting them on blast. I'm gonna give you some local names. That's coming. And we're going. It's one of 5 national counter-drug training centers. This is talking about a training center down in Florida. They train these people. Oh my God, it's strike for all this stuff. I'm trying to say the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense. These people got to. I mean, really, they just come up with all this stuff. And it's their Center for Public Safety Innovation. Whew. Glad I got through that. I know that you all may be happy as well. You've heard me mention some corrupt law enforcement by name. And I'm well aware that members of every level of law enforcement hang on every word I say on social media because they're working feverishly alongside their inbred moron crash dummies to constantly hang on everything you do. Try to report it. Now, of course, the Department of Homeland Security, which is not a federal state agency, private company, we have a federal Department of Homeland Security. That's one person, okay? But these Homeland Security Fusion Centers is not a government or state agency, okay? Federal state agency. I'm not going through that again. So the Fusion Center, you see all these things everywhere. Well, how can that be organized? That's why they have fusion centers. 78 around the country. They fuse this stuff together. All right? There's your smoking gun, folks. Can you challenge the director, and they're appointed by the governor? They do these things, folks, let me tell you, because it circumvents our legislator, it circumvents the processes of putting a new agency in and funding for this agency. They get this through proxy by involving everybody. So we'll have this separation of powers issue. And there's why I'm saying that there is no constitutional amendment or that a right that or anything that says that you got to separate church from state. I love this separation of church and state. I think that was in a letter or something. It had no place in the courtroom. Okay, for those that didn't know, and so what? I mean, the burst your bubble, and Gilligan's Island. That was just a show. All right. And so I could talk about Santa Claus, but that makes you the devil if you do that. If you'll simply go to the Department of Justice, ladies and gentlemen, under federal civil enforcement, then you can look under police misconduct provisions, and that, folks, covers a multitude. In other words, the criminal mirror to this is Title 18, Section 242, crimes committed under the color of law. But the police misconduct provision, this law makes it unlawful for state or local law enforcement officers to engage in a pattern or practice of conduct that deprives persons of rights protected by the Constitution, y'all get this, or laws of the United States. Title 34 U.S.C. 12601. The types of conduct covered by this law can include, among other things, excessive force. I just reported another citizen, after being handcuffed, was beaten, tased, gagged with a prison outfit, rolled in a dark corridor. This was a 4 hours worth of torture in Lee County, Mississippi jail. My case against Lee County as well is the same circumstances. There are more. There are countless people that have complained of the same thing. But why aren't they doing anything? Because the people they're going to are part of this cluster of impenetrable corruption. So they think. We're going to try them, and we're going to keep trying it. And we're going to keep trying till we show them that this impenetrable facade is not that impenetrable facade. Excessive force, discriminatory harassment, broad brush there, subjective, false arrest, imagine that. Coercive sexual conduct, imagine that. Unlawful stops. Sean Tyndall, I hope you're listening to this. Y'all tell Sean, just tell him about it. Searches or arrest in order to be covered by this law. The misconduct must constitute a pattern of practice. In other words, it can't be an isolated incident. Now, if you're a victim of community-oriented policing, you full well know it's not an isolated incident. Now, one of my pet peeves is I don't have any proof. I don't know if you're a perp or if you're an imbecile. All right, so you're telling me you're dumb, retarded, blind? What is it? What you're saying that? Are you suggesting that maybe you're admitting that you're having a psychological episode and you're delusional? Because I'm not. I wasn't hear you talking to me because I'm not a psychiatrist. What I'm talking about, I've got the pictures, okay? I've got all the hard evidence. That's why you don't hear me. That's why I'm not over there with Ella and or these other people blowing in the wind about how they can read my mind or some stuff like that. That's where you get the full deal. People will want to fight it for that. I've sponsored the Targeted Individual Protection Act, change.org. Everybody that hears this should sign it. But now I've got me a Havana Syndrome petition started. That's what we do, fragment, or do we? That is a criminal act altogether. That tells me it's imbecile. So I want, unless it says, for those that are experiencing having their thoughts read, petition, I'm going to sign it. All right, then don't complain about it. Who cares? Because I tell you, folks, I don't gravitate those that whine continuously. You don't get anything. I can't do anything. How do you stop? I don't have to stop it. Well, why are you talking so damn much and continuously and doing all this if you don't have any answers? You've got all the wind in the world for the problem. And then when you come to the answer, it's more complicated than Chinese arithmetic. Judas was a perp who betrayed Jesus with a kiss. Now, many of you have been betrayed by others, by lovers and loved ones for reasons that you may never know. In the long scheme of history, perps have always been betraying innocent and honest people. In the days of the apostles, it was very common for the Roman government or certain corrupt religious groups to train actors, hypocrites, to infiltrate the lives of Christians and spy on them. During the hellish days of the Inquisition, we had false believers turning independent and honest people into tortured and killed, being tortured and killed. Once again, we find ourselves lost in a Roman wilderness. Ladies and gentlemen, we find ourselves in this Roman wilderness here in America and across this globe. This usually what starts in America covers the globe. If you don't believe that, you can go anywhere and see an iPhone or eat at a McDonald's. A wilderness of pain, utterly betrayed by our own country and by our own countrymen. The famous writer Stephen King once wrote, "True horror is the coming undone of something good." We're living in that today. You may feel that your life has come undone. I'm speaking to a lot of people. It's quite likely that you're not living the life that you intended. You may feel that you misjudged everyone who were supposed to love you. You'd ask yourself, but you're not a fool for having trusted friends and family. You're not a fool for having loved people who turned out to be your enemies. You're not alone. Take heart. There is something about you that made weak and evil people hate you. In the world of dark forces, their greater fear is the coming together of something good. Know this: we decent people, often considered to be targets, are coming together. We are joining forces. By all means, folks, you can contact me. And I encourage you to not only contact me, but to subscribe and follow what we're doing here. I have other people and all over that contribute and that participate. And through that, we're able to track and keep up with each other and separate the sheep from the goats. I've heard a lot of talk about why can't we do this and why can't we do that. Let me tell you, folks, in order to be effective, it requires strong leadership. It requires commitment. It requires someone and people that will stand when the others fall by the wayside. How many times have you admired or watched someone only to find out later they were either flaky or then they just disappeared or they come off with some BS of, well, I'm not targeted anymore. It's years of these paper cuts that create the imminent death of a victim. This is what we will reverse. I'm not trying to get a mob of people because this country is not ran by mob mentality. I'm not trying to get in a circle, hold hands, and sing Kumbaya. There are a lot of things that I will say, maybe you won't agree with it, but you can believe one thing, you know where I stand. And I'm going to tell you, folks, if I'm wrong, I'll stand to be corrected. I'm not on social media, and I do not have this association as a platform to argue with anyone. I'm here for one reason, and that is to bring awareness and to expose these exploiters. Us coming together, and those that participate. You can participate by sharing our content on YouTube, subscribing, becoming a Patreon, contribute to our GoFundMe, or whatever. You can participate because we have this drumbeat of optimism because I serve a risen Savior. One that came that I might and you might have life and have it more abundantly. You never have to question where I feed, where I get my spiritual food, and who I am in communion with. I slip and make mistakes as much as the next person. But I can tell you one thing. This organization is about making things happen. When I got on social media less than 2 years ago, I had no idea what I was jumping into. I didn't just learn that, oh, now I've got the information I needed. Everything I know right now is what I knew before I went on social media. And I know some of those criminals in the background are looking and say, boy, he just can't get it. Well, I'll give you a spoiler alert. He's not the governor anymore in Chickasaw County, but he's still in law enforcement. And my next one, Michael Fowler, is going to have your name on it. Oklahoma, Mississippi. Oh, yeah. Michael Fowler, you thought this whole time. Yeah, he's mentioned it, but if he only knew. No, if you only knew. If you only knew. You see, your whole charade is theater, criminal theater, acting. And then you watch and you spy, and you have all this snitch culture, and you sit back and laugh, thinking, "Look how we've got them fooled." Don't throw all your chips on the table just now, Fowler. You know, as they say, the opera's not over the fat lady sings. Even though you're a lard ass, I'm your fat lady. And maybe you don't like that. Well, I'm gonna tell you what, you have no idea what not liking something feels by the time this thing's through. Because you will answer in federal court. I've spent a great deal of time making sure that I got it right. And you spent a great deal of time thinking, he just didn't know who it is. Okay, so you can check that off your bucket list. Been knowing it. They're going to tell you, buddies, how long you've been confused about thinking I didn't know who it was. This is what I do, Fowler. This is what I do. But at the same time you set your sights on me, guess what? I set mine on yours. You've got this mentality that they're nobody. You've got people saying he's this, all these bad things. You think this mob mentality of rumors and smear tactics and absolutely terror and felony thefts, forcing me out of it, all these things would ultimately cause me to kneel at the foot of defeat. You are wrong. You were wrong. I'm still here, Mike Fowler, and the rest of this so-called clandestine clutch of pathetic criminals, not because you allow it, but because God says it's so. You just have not figured out that to destroy and to break my spirit, you have to break that spirit that's within me. You think you can break God. You are mistaken. And I'm speaking for hundreds of thousands of citizens across this country. You represent the lowest form of evil imaginable. I'm going to exploit it. We're going to exploit it in each state, in each town, and every hamlet, and every valley, and every hilltop. We won't stop. We won't shut up. We won't back up, and we won't give up. This is our land, and this was your land. But my friend, you became an enemy of the state when you started deciding through your vocabulary and your actions of circumventing the laws of the land, circumventing the Constitution and due process and civil liberties and that inalienable right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's official. We're taking it back. Laugh if you want to, but you're going to be squirming like most of you, a lot of you are, a worm in hot ashes. We're coming. Let me hear from you, folks. Share, subscribe, and I welcome more people on board as they're coming in daily. I'm grateful, and hopefully, out of some of this, some of you listening today will get what you need. And that, my friend, is why I'm here. Until next time, God bless you.